Hey there. Just here with my DeWalt cuticle adjusted. So anyhow, my progress is coming along quite nicely for the radical periodic table palette. I'm going to design it around the radical, as obvious. The quadratic equation is what that represents. So basically, it's your aesthetics to the environment where minerals are found. So you have your common standard of geometry, which is what the math is devised around. Geometry before photosynthesis. So the order of operations, PEMDAS. Please excuse my German sounding. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And so the radical is part of that order of operations, but it is a unique attribute to that because it tells you what to do when those things are put to use. You have standardized computation, just such as the first punch cards that made computers work from the start. And then you have the radical, which is turning those static components of your computer into a function. Not just maybe a robot moving its arm, but performing an act of physics, defying gravity, jumping, using a laser, fire, kind of like a blowtorch or a welder. That's where your radical comes in. It tells you how much to apply, at what pressure, what speed. So basically, you take A and B, which could be 2 plus 2, and then B could be, for A, and then B could be, 6 times 6. And the radical comes in and it says, take A and apply so much mass at this altitude of this cubic meter of pressure, pounds per square inch, and you have all of your math in there, and the radical says to perform it against that at whatever direction or whatever cognition method. And so basically the computation pipes into your radical, and then it goes against that. So you have a reaction out of your computation, which, when you break it down, the more science you get into, if you get into biology or human anatomy, you understand that it's the same thing as the brain functions or kinetics of the body, because it's part of geometry. Your radical comes out of geometry, so it's very natural, just the food you eat. And the more you apply into your efforts in designing technology, you'll have more reality in your computation, based off your aesthetics and your desire and your project work. So it's coming along. I'm putting different categories of minerals for the radical. Instead of using PEMDAS, we're going to turn around and use the radical as the first order of operation versus the geometry itself. You have things that will always be. A line's always going to be a straight line. If you run into one, you'll know that it's natural, such as a tree, or hay growing in a field. Same thing. But your radical is the same thing, but it can come first, and it can also put that whole entire set of geometry into section B, whereas A is now just the radical. And you can turn around and have AB in plus B, which is your cubic meter at such altitude of atmospheric pressure. Where now A is your subject matter in your project. And you could tell all those natural things to be, such as wind, motion, the senses, to turn around and look at these natural static and of things before they're assembled and get more out of it that way. It's like, you can build a rocket ship, but what if you turn around and build a hammer? But by the time you're done, you'll realize you just never needed a rocket ship. Anyhow, today I devised a new note for developing a compound using the radical periodic table palette I'm working on. So you can take very basic things and put them into the radical function and come up with not just a solution for maybe what do you get out of putting two minerals together, but the method. What if you want to do the method first? Devise the method, then put it together. You know, where you're not taking multiplication and addition to put your radicals together. Your minerals together. Excuse me. Just got through eating some food. You're using the root to those things, the geometry, and then you're putting it into your selection of the menus, and then you're going and grabbing your math, and you're structuring your build before you even put the minerals to the machinery that's going to build it for you. You're putting your minerals to a structured math. So you're taking the geometry before you grab the math, piping it into the radical. It's kind of like arranging the math you want to use, on a bookshelf or something, or in your office, and then you start building. So then you put the minerals on your method, and then you get an output. So it's like using the root things you always know, your hands, your hammer. You use every part of it, and then you have that same output in the end, and it's all plug and play. So I've got this note I wrote, which I'm gonna try to put a quick example before I post this work. But so it's going to use this as I get further along in my coding, and it's going to use basically that principle. And we're going to do it per electron, because electrons, as I mentioned before in my post and streams, that it comes before the nucleus of the atom in creation. Your nucleus is the result of the dynamics that put the electron into a stable orbit, stable position to survive. And with that said, the electron eventually harmonizes, and at that moment, the neutron center also stabilizes with it, and it's kind of like a sidecar to a motorcycle. It comes along into an orbit, and it's the map work for your blueprint for your electron, where it came from. And not all minerals end up like that. Although the nucleus is the same thing for every mineral, you kind of have to investigate. That's what's fun, because you'll know everything about one mineral, but what if you put it close to another? You'll know everything about that mineral too, and both of them together with them that close. But what if you want to look at the map work? You can discover two minerals forming naturally on Earth, but what if you compare the nucleus map work in one location to the same minerals discovered in another location? Maybe in one location you got a ground fault, in the other location you got a lake, and you might realize you know everything about it and can say the same thing about them, but per both locations. But what if you find that at one of the locations, the nucleus of that same mineral it can be said that it's the same, but it also says differently of all of them. That's where place and set comes in, and division for those that don't have a forte and just going out and breaking things. I'm sure you would put a few rocks and stones together to make a sidewalk for your front yard or something, but I don't know if you would break them every day to start a fire and form aerogel or something. But anyhow, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. So from there, after I pretty much get the groundwork, the foundation of this radical periodic table palette together, I'm going to start natural language processing. Start building an engine for that. I've started laying down all the nodes that I want to use in that engine. And it's going to be called, I'll go ahead and announce it, but it's going to be called the float origin engine, FOE, FO. That's what I'm going to call the engine for my NLP. and that's going to be for language, of course. And then I'm going to turn around and later build the AI for this radical periodic table palette. For those that need the AI to, it's going to be hands-on. You're going to use this palette on something like the HoloLens, you know, and you're going to be in a factory ready to molten your metal or you know, cool your plastic or something, and you know, you're going to have all the tools you need between furnace, gloves, hammer, the VR. And you're gonna have all the calculations there, you know, hands-on, putting things together, and then, but I'm like so excited. What if someone needs to use AI with that? What if they need statistics based off global warming, you know, in a certain region of the Earth, or biology, you know, bacteria, and they still need to use this radical periodic table palette. So I think AI will do pretty well. And of course, as obvious, radical deep scale, I'm going to form the engine of the radical. Because in reality, without mentioning the radical in this next line, the geometry comes before photosynthesis in the order of operations. Now, the radical deep scale, the AI. This is what's so exciting. You're part of the whole process in forming a new alloy, forming a plastic, forming a chemical that's going to grow, you know, plants or something for your greenhouse or whatever. It's all hands-on. You're a part of that, you know, cask or whatever for molten your metal. You're in this thing, you know. Like someone just gave you a toy and you just never stop playing with it. That's what it is. And anyhow, so I'm gonna get this groundwork done for these engines and this palette, and then I'm gonna get back into the reach for creation side. Whereas I'll be working with results from having something like that, and also, you know, exploring what technology I'd like to access from the community out there. Forming my own services and products while educating others. So, and I've got a lot of music to write too, especially this year, the 2020 year of classical composition. Anyhow, all good night. I'm getting closer to my destination to finish some groundwork here, but for my projects and start doing some real hands-on work. This is what, Fort Pierce, so I'm getting closer to further up the coast here, and I'm pretty excited. Spring's coming up and it's going to be beautiful out here on the coast. So anyhow, good night out there, reach for creation. See you in the communities.